Okay, let's get into this. I saw a number that really stopped me in my tracks. In the UK, right now, there's an urgent call for 12,000 new blood donors,
Mm.
specifically donors of Black heritage.
12,000, yeah, that's a huge figure. And it immediately makes you ask why. Why that specific group and why so many? And it's fascinating because that urgent need for blood donors, it's, well, it's really just one part of a bigger picture we need to talk about today.
Right.
We're going to be doing a deep dive into the need for blood, yes, but also stem cell, bone marrow and organ donors, especially within the Black community here in the UK.
So,
It's all about understanding some pretty significant challenges when it comes to finding life-saving matches. And importantly, what you listening can actually do.
absolutely, because when you start digging into why this specific need exists, you uncover some fundamental issues in how things work for matching donors and recipients from Black heritage backgrounds. So our mission today really is to unpack those challenges, look at the reasons behind them, drawing on info from NHS Blood and Transplant and the African Caribbean Leukemia Trust, the ACLT,
The ACLT does incredible work.
and figure out, what are the actionable steps? What can people actually do?
So let's circle back to that first big number. 12,000 new Black heritage blood donors needed, primarily for people with sickle cell disease.
Right, sickle cell.
And this really highlights a core principle in donation. Often, the very best match comes from someone who shares a similar ethnic background.
Exactly. And it's not just about any blood match. It's about a specific subtype, isn't it? The Rho subtype.
That's the one. Donors of Black heritage are 10 times more likely to have this Rho blood subtype.
10 times. Wow.
And it's crucial because there are about 15,000 people in the UK living with sickle cell disorder.
Which we know disproportionately affects people of Black African, Caribbean, or mixed heritage backgrounds.
Precisely. So getting the right blood, the best matched blood, often means finding a donor from within the same community. Ethnicity really matters here.
Okay, so that principle, the need for closely matched donors, that extends beyond blood too, right? To stem cells and organs.
Absolutely. Which leads to an interesting question for you listening. Think about stem cell transplants. What percentage of people receiving them in the UK actually come from minority ethnic backgrounds?
I'm guessing it's lower than the need.
Well, the percentage receiving transplants is actually 37%.
Okay, 37%. That sounds reasonably high.
It is a significant number, yes.
Yeah.
But here's the crucial part. Finding those matches for that 37% is where the real difficulty lies.
Because it's more complicated than blood type.
Much more complicated. For stem cells, you need a close match in tissue types. We're talking about HLA markers, human leukocyte antigens. They're inherited genetically.
Okay. HLA markers.
So the best chance of finding that match, usually it's with someone from the same ethnic background. A sibling is often the best bet, but if not,
Then you need an unrelated donor. And
Right.
this is where the statistics get quite, stark, isn't it?
they really are. So if you're a patient of white Northern European heritage needing a transplant, your chance of finding a matched unrelated donor is about 71%.
71%. Okay. That sounds pretty good odds, relatively speaking.
Relatively, yes. But now compare that. If you're Black, Asian, or from another minority ethnic background, your chance of finding that same kind of match plummets.
How low are we talking?
We're talking 20%, maybe even less.
20% or less. Compared to 71,
Yeah.
that's a massive gap.
It's a huge gap, and it directly reflects the underrepresentation of individuals from Black heritage on the stem cell and bone marrow registries.
So why? What makes it so much harder? Is it just fewer people signing up?
That's definitely a major factor, the size and diversity of the registry pool.
Okay.
But there's another layer to it related to genetics. Those HLA markers we mentioned, they're incredibly complex, highly variable. And actually, there's generally greater genetic diversity within African and Caribbean populations compared to, say, Northern European populations.
Right. So more genetic variety overall.
Exactly, which is usually a fantastic thing. But in the context of finding a very specific HLA match, that greater diversity means you need an even larger, more diverse pool of registered donors to find that precise match.
Ah, I see. So it's like the needle you're looking for is potentially even more specific, and the haystack of registered donors from that background isn't nearly big enough yet.
That's a really good way to put it. The inherent genetic richness becomes a challenge when the donor pool doesn't reflect that same richness and scale.
Okay, that makes sense. But are there other factors too, beyond just the numbers and the genetics?
Yes. We also have to acknowledge, the more sensitive issues, things like historical context.
You mean like past experiences with the medical system?
Exactly. Historic medical inequities, things that have happened in the past, can sometimes lead to a degree of distrust within some communities.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah.
If there's a feeling that the system hasn't always treated people fairly, there might be hesitation to engage with something like donation.
Absolutely. It can contribute to reluctance, maybe a bit of suspicion, and alongside that, sometimes there's just a simple lack of awareness.
Just not knowing about the need or how donation actually works.
Right. People might not realize how urgent the need is within their own community. And then there are the common myths.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Things like, is it painful? Is it risky for me, the donor? These misconceptions can definitely deter people who might otherwise be willing to help.
Which is where organizations trying to tackle this head-on
Right.
becomes so vital, like the ACLT you mentioned earlier.
Precisely. The African Caribbean Leukemia Trust. They've been working on this since 1996.
That's quite a long time. What exactly do they do?
Their impact has been huge. They were basically founded because of these disparities. They work incredibly hard to get more people from African, Caribbean, and mixed heritage backgrounds signed up to the registers.
Okay. So donor recruitment.
Yes, but also raising awareness, tackling those myths we talked about, educating communities, and crucially, supporting patients and their families who are going through this incredibly difficult time.
And isn't there a really powerful personal story behind why the ACLT was started? About Daniel De-Gale.
Yes, Daniel's story is absolutely central. He was diagnosed with leukemia back in 1993, very young.
Okay.
After a long search in 1999, he actually became the first Black person in the UK to receive a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor, a landmark moment.
Wow. So it was possible, even then.
It was, but the search was incredibly difficult. And tragically, Daniel passed away in 2008 from later health complications. His parents, Beverly and Orrin De-Gale,
They founded ACLT.
they co-founded it, driven by their own journey and the belief that maybe, just maybe, if a match had been found sooner for Daniel, things might have been different. It's an incredibly powerful legacy.
That really puts a human face on these statistics, doesn't it? Such a moving story.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked blood, we've talked stem cells. What about organ donation? Similar situation.
Unfortunately, yes, the disparities are, well, just as alarming, if not more so in some ways.
Okay.
Remember we said only 2% of current blood donors are from Black heritage?
Right, 2%.
Now get this, for organ donation, currently there are only 46 registered Black donors in the UK. That includes both living and deceased donors.
46. Total.
46. But look at the waiting list. 11.4% of the people waiting for an organ transplant are Black.
Wait, so 46 donors on the register, but over 11% of the waiting list?
Exactly. The mismatch is huge. It really highlights just how critical the need is for more organ donors from Black heritage as well.
Wow. Okay, those numbers side by side are...
Yeah, they speak for themselves.
Okay.
So for anyone listening right now who's hearing this and thinking, okay, this is serious, what can I do? What are the practical steps?
Right. Because it can feel overwhelming, but there are definitely concrete things you can do. First up, the stem cell register.
Okay. How does that work?
If you're generally healthy and aged between 16 and 55, though some registers vary slightly, you can join. There are a few main ones in the UK, Anthony Nolan, DKMS UK, and the British Bone Marrow Registry.
And is it complicated to sign up?
Not at all, usually.
Yeah.
You typically register online. They send you a kit in the post with some swabs, like big cotton buds.
Just a cheek swab.
Exactly. You swab the inside of your cheek, pop it back in the prepaid envelope, send it off, and that's it. You're on the register as a potential lifesaver. It's that simple.
Okay, that sounds really straightforward. What about blood donation? Still absolutely vital, especially, as we said, for sickle cell patients needing those regular, closely matched transfusions. If you're of Black heritage, your donation is particularly valuable because of that higher likelihood of having the Rho subtype.
And where do people go for that?
The main place to start is the NHS Blood and Transplant website. It's simply blood.co.uk. You can find out if you're eligible and register there.
Right. Blood.co.uk.
Yeah.
Easy to remember. Okay, so joining the registers, stem cell and blood are key actions. What if someone can't donate? For whatever reason, are there other ways to help?
Definitely. Never underestimate the power of raising awareness. Just talking about this.
Having conversations.
Yes. Talk to your family, your friends, your colleagues, people in your community. Share accurate information. Maybe share what you've heard today. Breaking down myths and just letting people know the need exists makes a huge difference.
And supporting the ACLT directly.
Absolutely. You can follow their work, help spread their message. They're on social media to search for @ACLT Charity.
@ACLT Charity. Got it.
You can donate financially if you're able via their website, which is aclt.org. Donate. Or even think about practical support. Could you invite them to speak at your workplace, your church, a community event?
Host a donor drive, maybe?
Exactly. Hosting a registration drive is incredibly impactful. Every single action, honestly, no matter how small it feels, contributes.
So wrapping this up then,
Yeah.
we've clearly seen there's this major gap, this significant disparity for people of Black heritage needing blood, stem cells, or organs in the UK.
A really serious gap.
But, crucially, there are tangible ways everyone listening can be part of the solution. Joining registers, just talking about it, supporting ACLT, every bit helps bridge that divide.
It really does.
Yeah.
And maybe a final thought to leave people with, tying back to Daniel De-Gale's legacy,
Yeah.
just consider the potential power of one single act, registering, having that conversation. Could that act, your act, be the one that changes the entire course of someone's life? Just like Daniel's story continues to inspire hope and action today, it's something really powerful to reflect on, I think.